Deb is back from visiting District 42 from the safety of her own home during their fall contest season. They're embarking on their third round of online contests. Deb's put in a lot of work to familiarize herself with the updated judging requirements in this new online version of contests. In this session, she will show you what has changed since our last contest season in 2019 and how judging is done in the new online environment so that you're ready to be the best online judge that you can be. Please join me in welcoming Deb Salderson.
Thank you very much. In this session, you can expect to cover a review of the judging code of ethics and ballots, and a new tutorial has been launched for online speech contests, where you can find it, and what is new in the world of Zoom contest judging, including the equipment you need to do that. A contest, we will hold a contest for you to judge and practice your skills, where to find resources, and then if we have time, we'll do a question and answer period. So if you have questions, please direct it to Sherry in the chat in a private message. Okay, so the first thing we're going to talk about is the Judges Code of Ethics form. Back in the day, these were handed out right at the beginning of the briefing. Well, obviously you won't be able to do that. So judges will receive the Judges Code of Ethics electronically in advance of the contest. This form is also available in a PDF version that you can fill out electronically. But if you lack the technology, or like me, a little bit worried that technology might fail that day, a photograph of the completed, printed, signed form can be sent via text to the chief judge before the briefing. It is understood that your email address from which the form is sent is collaboration of your electronic signature. In order to safeguard against technology failures, I personally recommend that you do print the form, fill it out, photograph it, and email it or text it to the judge. This form talks about the eligibility as a judge at all levels. And while it is preferred at club level that the judge be at least as qualified as our speaker, it's not actually mandatory. The speaker has a minimum of 6 legacy speeches or levels 1 and 2 in pathway modules. That is just in the international contest. To qualify at area, division, and district, a judge must be a fully paid member of Toastmasters Club for a minimum of 6 months. They cannot be competing in the same type of contest in the same cycle. They must have a minimum of 6 legacy speeches or levels 1 and level 2 in the pathway modules. Now, the legacy period closed in June. For judges that joined after the rollout of pathways, it is required that you have level 1 and level 2 in pathways. In addition, division and district judges will have to be proven to have no association with any of the speakers. Judges cannot be a family member, a significant other, or members even of the same club of the contest that they are judging. Now, if we have a look at the judges form for the International Speech Contest, the judges will receive the judge ballot as well electronically in advance of the contest. This is when you will also choose your tie-breaking judge. Again, these ballots are available in a PDF version that you can fill out electronically and forward to the ballot counters and the chief judge. However, if you do this, I warn you, because you won't be able to separate the top from the bottom, which is generally considered the worksheet as a private section. For this reason, as your chief judge for the year, I would like to tell you that I prefer that you print the form, sign it in advance of the contest, and when you're ready to submit it, you will be able to cover or separate that top section before you take a photo and forward it to the ballot counters and the chief judge. The ballot counter and chief judges and the chair's contact information will appear in chat, so you have easy access to it. Once the ballot forms have not been edited, so these particular forms look exactly the same as they did in 2017, which I believe is written on there. However, there have been some changes, obviously, because of the contest being virtual now. I have cited all of these changes from the Toastmasters International website, either in the speech contest rule updates and changes or in the rule book itself. So the first section you need to look at is the delivery section. Okay, so this is appearance, speaking area, body language. Okay, so that is worth 30 points. As far as appearance goes, between club and district level, you will not deduct points for poor quality or poor digital quality or camera. The reason is because this is not taped. It has to be online. And this is considered a practice to getting past the district area. Of course, our speakers will want to make sure that they have good audio and digital qualities, but the judges will not take that into consideration. The speaking area. Now, this was mentioned in the previous session. What is the speaking area if there is no stage? Well, the speaking area will be predefined and the judges will have been advised of the parameters during that briefing. It is important so that all speakers are presenting from the same distance to their camera, and so judges can ascertain whether or not the competitors are making full use of their speaking areas or if they've stepped off the stage. And all competitors have the same advantages. An example of how that might be done would be you have to be sitting exactly this far from the camera, and you need to be able to see both of your elbows. That would be an example. Now, we also were talking about body language. Well, body language is significantly different in Zoom. What they're considering is, first of all, that eye contact is how the contestant is engaging with his or her camera. Body movements and gestures may be on a slight time lag. It's something that just happens in Zoom from time to time. And if that's the case, if there's ghosting or a time lag, do not deduct points for that either. Technical issues. This is very, very important. For speakers, because sometimes things just fall apart. A screen suddenly freezes, the contestant loses a connection, and when these bandwidth issues happen, deduction of points will not occur. It's very hard to do, but you still must not consider it. The speaker will notify the contest chair and the chief judge via text or chat. Well, in this case, we're not keeping chat open, so it will be via text. Clearly, that means that the speaker needs to have a smartphone. The speaker will then attempt to reestablish connection and must do so within 4 minutes. When they are connected, they continue where they left off in their speech with a single prompt from the chair on the last words spoken. The timers will give the speaker an additional 30 seconds on the clock before disqualifying them. This is in order to accommodate the tech failure. Now, a speaker may use this rule only once during the contest. The contestant is disqualified if it happens a second time. Contests may be postponed at the discretion of the chief judge if many tech failures are disruptive to the contest or inadequate numbers of judges and other contest officials becomes a hindrance to be throwing a fair contest. Now, we're also having a table topics contest. So here's some things that you need to know about table topics. When you are judging a table topics contest, we've always consider that the first word spoken and the length of time it takes for the competitor to respond is part of the judging score. Well, be aware as a table topics judge in a virtual contest, you can expect that there's a slight lag time between the end of the question that was posed and the competitor's ability to hear it and respond to the question. It is normal in a virtual communication that the speaker should not be penalized. Finally, we have also considered the timing presentation begins with the first word or communicate with the chair audience. This is not the case in a virtual contest. So, our speaker will be asked, are you there? Is your volume and video turned on? Those are the first words spoken. And the questions will be fully answered before the next word will start the contest. Now, you get to try it out. I have arranged to have two speakers, and they're going to be competing against each other today and will be judged by you. Please refer to the judging form in your chat and try putting these new rules into play. For the purpose of this demonstration, you will receive an opportunity to raise your hand and vote for speaker 1 or speaker 2. At a real contest, your ballots would be photographed, of course, by your camera and texted to the chief judge and ballot counters. So, let the contest begin. Our first speaker is Robert Legary. The perfect trip, Robert Legary.
Have you ever dreamed of having a perfect trip? Well, I have. And it didn't work out quite the way I wanted it to. And I'm going to tell you about my experience. The experience of having the perfect trip needs planning. You need perfect planning for a perfect trip. And in my case, that's a multi-year planning experience. And that was because at the time I was working on shift work in an operations center. And it's on a rotation. So we had to select our vacations by priority, meaning there were 6 people on the shift and 6 people got to choose because only one could go at any one time and you could have up to a month off. Typically, if you had the 3rd or higher choice, you didn't get vacations in the summer. Not at all, because the first choice person took either July or August. The second person took the remaining month. So forget about a perfect trip in the summer, and that was my perfect trip, as I'll explain it to you. So with a multi-year plan, I had to wait and wait until I had the perfect opportunity to get a good timing. And guess what? It didn't come on either my first or second pick. I was lucky enough that one year when I had 4th pick, someone had not taken the last week of July and the first week of August because the first and second choice people, they only picked 3 weeks in July and happened to be the first 3 weeks of July and the last 3 weeks of August. I was so lucky. I had the timing correct, that I had time off in the summer, and it wasn't even one of my choice years. The second function that you need for the perfect trip, and this is a camping trip, I may as well tell you, that you have to have that, timing correct, and you need to pick the location. Well, for a location, the desired locations, quite often campgrounds have their sites picked well in advance. In Manitoba here, everybody picks their vacation camping at the same time when it opens up on the same day. It's nearly impossible to get the time you want unless you're one of those lucky few to get in first. But this time I was lucky. And it's because I wanted to go to Blue Lake in Ontario. They allow you to pick 3 months in advance. So the day that I wanted to go, I picked 3 months in advance of that. Well, that was easy enough to do. No, because they allow you to pick dates 3 months in advance, but you can book for up to 3 weeks. Well, I didn't need 3 weeks. I only wanted 2 weeks. So I waited until my start date was 3 months out. And guess what? All the good sites were gone. I was lucky though, there was still a remaining site in the campground. It must have been the furthest site from the beach where I got the longest drive from the gate, but I got a site. I was lucky. All right. I had the timing and I had the site. I was so happy that I was starting to come. I was going to have this perfect trip. The final thing that you need is family or friends or someone to enjoy it with. We were so lucky that we had a couple of friends that were able to come along. And over the course of the 3 months while we waited for that vacation, another site had come open. So my wife's brother decided he was going to come as well. So we had people to come with us. And these were close friends. They were going to set up tents on our site, which was allowed at that time. So we had no problem. We had what we thought was the perfect trip. I had the timing, I had the location, and I had friends. We were going to have the time of our lives. We got there and it was just terrific. But we had one little stumbling block on the way. We decided we would go a day early and stay in the town of Vermilion Bay overnight and then just travel a short distance to the campground and enjoy the day that we were going to check in. And it worked out not bad. We did get a really nice day at the beach. However, when we parked in the lot at Vermilion Bay, we decided we're going to keep this quiet. So we parked at the farthest end of the lot we could away from the restaurant. And when we woke up in the morning, we thought we were in a pasture. We could not believe it. And we were woke up early by this noise. It's a familiar noise, and it was a noise of cattle. Overnight, a cattle hauling semi-trailer pulls up almost right beside our camper because we were smart enough to go furthest away, which they were going to keep the noise furthest away from the restaurant, from the cattle, beside us, and woke us all up in the morning. So we went for breakfast. That's the good side of it, but we were a little bit tired. We got to the beach, we enjoyed the day. It come time for us to move on to our site. Our site wasn't open. We go to the campground office and say, we got this site, it's time. Oh, the other people haven't moved out yet? Well, just wait, give them an hour. I don't think they moved out till about 8 at night. And there we are 8 at night moving on to our site. We weren't happy, but we had the perfect trip because we had the location, we had this good summer timing. We weren't going to let that disrupt us. Our camping trip went fairly well for the first few days. We get into it every single morning. I would go for a walk, we'd come back and we'd have breakfast. My wife and his brother would join us and they'd talk about the day because they wanted to go fishing. So I gave them the weather forecast, what I thought it was going to do for the day. Things went well. On the 4th day, we were having a fantastic time. My brother-in-law and his wife, they couldn't believe how I could predict the weather every single day and be so accurate about it. The next morning, they found out. The campground office posts the weather each day on the office. And during my walks, I just read the weather forecast, came back and told them what I'd read, but I didn't tell them I read it. They didn't need to know that part of it. But we were having the perfect trip. And I encourage all of you to do the same. You may not have the same idea of what a perfect trip is. We didn't want to go on an exotic trip to an exotic location. We didn't want to go to any historical sites. We wanted just to have a local camping trip, and we strived for that until we had it. So if you want to have the perfect vacation, just have to remember those three basic fundamentals: timing, location, and who you want with you on that trip to enjoy that trip with you. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you very much. Okay, normally we would give our judges a minute to absorb their scores and enter them, but we're going to move right along to our second speaker. Our second speaker is Tekla Thide, Footprints. Footprints by Tekla Thide.
Life is not about all the steps you have taken, all the trips that Robert has been on, the perfect trips. It's about the footprints you leave behind. Madam Contest Chair, fellow Toastmasters, it is January 30th, 30 days since the annual plunder. Every year, with the most noble of intentions, we commit to a plan of improvement, a personal promise, which likely already has or will ultimately fail. Yes, the New Year's resolution. It is 2021. If going to the gym or exercising were on your list, you have a great excuse. The gyms are closed. I have a solution for you. Running. Running is the greatest metaphor for life because you get out of it what you put into it. What is more, running is free. You can only run anywhere. It is one of those exercises you do not need special equipment for or a gym to get started. If you run, you're a runner. It doesn't matter how fast or how slow or how far you go. It does matter if today is your first day or if you have been running for 20 years. There is no test to pass, no license to earn, no membership card to get. You just run. I first learned to run in Uganda, East Africa. You had to run, or you would be eaten by lions or trampled by elephants. I am not a fast runner. I am alive because faster runners saved me. Running allows me to set my mind free. Nothing seems impossible, nothing unattainable. If I run because long after my footprints fade away, maybe I will have inspired a few to reject the easy path, to hit the trails, put one foot in front of the other, and come to the same conclusion I did. I run because it always takes me to where I want to go, and it adds life to my days. If running seems impossible, start with walking, because the man who moves the mountain begins by carrying away small stones. Running is also a great way to set a goal and crush it. If you need a purpose in life, now's the time to lace up and work towards your goal. Do not give up on your dreams or resolutions. They are not about all the steps you have not taken or all the goals yet to complete. It is about the footprints you leave behind. Madam Contest Chair.
Thank you very much to both of our speakers. So now you get an opportunity to have your say. So now raise your hand, please, if you believe that Tekla won this contest.
Hey, Deb, I can launch the polling. I'll do that.
All right.
It wasn't functioning before, so,
All right.
but it's
So-
working now.
So you see a poll in front of you. Check one for Robert and the second one for Tekla.
Deb,
Mm.
we do have a question for you.
Okay.
Okay. You said your preference was to print out the ballot,
Right.
and the questioner, and I'm sorry I've missed her name, Sandra, wanted to know, is a screenshot admissible?
Yes.
Because not everyone can print.
Yes.
Okay.
But the problem with the screenshot is how are you going to enter the names? Right.
I can demonstrate that later.
Lloyd, how are we coming on the polling?
81 of 99, 81%. I could just end it.
Sure.
There we go. And I'll share the results.
Please.
You should see them.
Okay, I do see them. Okay, so the majority by far said that Tekla had the better speech. So let's have a look at that. Okay, do you know the timing? Could you give me the timing of those speeches?
Yes, they both got disqualified.
Okay.
So Robert was 8:32 and Tekla was 3:59.
All right. Thank you very much, Timer.
I didn't vote. I didn't vote for either one because then you had been disqualified.
Okay.
You vote
That's-
first and
That's the
then,
thing. Judges
then
don't
the
take into
judges.
account timing.
Okay, one of you at a time here. Okay, go ahead, Stephen.
Yes, Tekla got disqualified because there's a new rule that states you cannot make reference to a previous speaker.
Absolutely. And that's brand new this year, something that all of you need to absorb and keep in your mind because it does not appear on the judging ballot. The next part of the speech disqualification would be originality. A good portion of Tekla's speech was quoted and unattributed. So not only was it unattributed, but it was more than 25% of her speech. Okay. And the other parts of the speech was the timing, obviously. And there was no tech failure, so we can't comment on that. This protest, if anybody had protested, would have been affirmed in the end. Is there any further questions on that protest? Read the new rule book, but also make sure that you download the explanation of changes. It's also located on the same page, and it'll tell you why they made those decisions. Okay,
Deb,
so what the change was in the wording and why they made those changes.
okay, Deb,
Yes,
sorry. Say you're speeching and it's a very attensive, and you'd say, quote, JFK said he will do that.
yes.
Is that accepted again this year? Because in the book, it doesn't really say, because I've got it.
It says 25% of your speech can be
Right.
attributed content,
Okay,
as long as it doesn't, like Tekla's speech was 65% borrowed,
yes.
okay? And I happen to know that because we collaborated. So I thought that if I showed it to you, this is what it looks like, it would be easier to absorb. Okay, so you learned a new rule today. You learned that you're not allowed to refer to another speaker's speech or speech material. And you learned that you could only speak 25% of unoriginal content, what it looks like, and that it must be attributed. And what else did you learn today? Go ahead,
Yeah.
Michael.
Question about the not being allowed to refer to another speech, to a previous speech.
Yeah.
when I competed at district a couple of years ago, Mandone and I happened to use the same quote from Lao Tzu in our speech. Would that have disqualified me because I happened to go after him? Because it was part of the speech, it is directly related to what I'm speaking about, as long as I don't mention that man had quoted him earlier, just by virtue of using that same very well-known quote, would I still be disqualified?
Well, that would be up to the judge to infer. But personally, as a chief judge, I would say no. Okay.
The other thing as well.
As long as you were attributing it to your source, number one, as long as you weren't referring to the other speaker or speech, like Robert said in his speech, blah, 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 where he was referencing this particular quote to this particular subject, okay, then it should be okay.
Follow up.
I can follow up on that.
Someone intends to disqualify me for using the same quote. Will I get the attempt, or will I get the opportunity to defend myself? Even if I have to bring a recording of a previous speech where I delivered it with the same quote.
Have you ever been in a protest?
No.
Okay, so this is what happens, okay? If there is a protest, the chief judge and the judges are in another room and somebody says, I protest that speech because they used blah, 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 okay? So then the chief judge calls the speaker out into the same breakout room and they discuss the issue and you get to defend yourself. And if the judges then take a vote, and if they still say that you've disqualified, okay, then you are disqualified because it's the last word in the contest. But yes, you do get to defend yourself. Anybody else? Sherry, do you have any questions out there, or should
I don't have any questions, but I see Marion's hand up, and then we'll do Les, and then we'll do Lloyd. So Marion, go first.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sheriff. There's another issue, I think, maybe, because Tekla is obviously standing and
absolutely
Robert Legary was sitting. And so they weren't same distance from the camera or using the same stage. So
exactly.
Okay. Just checking my own observation.
You were the only one that noticed that, so good for you.
Okay, Les, Lily.
Hi there. This is the first year I've ever been a judge. Okay. And if I hadn't have been here and heard this going on, I never would have known that there's a rule change.
Mm-hmm.
And unless somebody challenged it, I would have went right through, not based on this new rule. I think there's got to be a real onus to say to people, hey, listen, we've made a change.
Judges are not allowed to judge at any level over club without having taken judges training, which is what you're doing today.
Oh.
Okay, so now you can judge at club.
Yeah.
Okay, and if you qualify, you can also qualify for area. Any other questions?
Lloyd had a question, and then I have one more. Oh, then we'll do Denise, and then I have another one.
Okay, go ahead, Lloyd.
It might be more of a point because of my presentation, but when Robert got on, something that the Toastmaster is supposed to do is, can you hear me? And Robert says, yes. Can you see the timing device? Now, Robert,
he couldn't see it, eh?
Robert couldn't see the timing device, and that's why in my presentation I was saying we turn everybody's videos off and you just have those two people on the screen, Robert and the timing device. And the backup timer has to be prepared to take over in case timer one disappears.
Fails. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Denise?
Yes, I was informed through one of the earlier sessions about who could qualify and who could not qualify to be in the contest. And that surprised me because I didn't know, like if you had a role in the district or you had certain roles, you couldn't compete. Is there somewhere where that's listed?
It's in the rule book. And it's also, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Sandra just made a good point on general chat. That's why all parties, contestants, judges, etc., must read and be familiar with contest rules and changes. So yeah,
exactly,
because they do tend to change every year a little bit. Connie has also put a question, and then we'll, Michael. We would as a judge, we would disqualify someone based on timing, or would we?
Yes,
Would
absolutely.
you okay, so because under the new way of doing things, everybody can see the timer. So
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you're not supposed to be able to see, judges have never supposed to have been able to see the timing lights because it is not something that they even consider. Okay, even if you think they've only spoken for 2 minutes, you are judging them on the basis of that 2 minutes that you saw.
Okay.
You cannot disqualify them for that reason. It's up to the chief judge and the timers to do that.
Okay, great. I'm just going to say, Deb, we're going to have 5 minutes left. And Michael, what is your question? Michael Bayer?
Thank you very much, Sherry. Well, a question is this. So I'm judging, I've judged this contest. I realize that Tekla did the big no-no. So how do I get her disqualified? Do I write protest on my ballot? Because the ballot just asks us to rank speakers. There's no room for any kind of comments or judgment like that. So I'm assuming I write protest, then we get into the protest. I bring my protest out, and then the process follows. Am I correct?
Are you a speaker or a judge?
I'm a judge.
Okay, so judges can disqualify a speaker for originality, or eligibility, and for referring to another speaker. So all you would do is bring your concern directly to the chief judge.
So you would do,
I protest
the question I'm
because.
asking is how do
Well, you
protest
have,
on the ballot?
you would protest on the ballot.
You're still going to rank them.
You can actually, you can also send me a text or an email.
But you will still rank them as a judge. You just need to let the chief judge know that you believe there's a disqualification.
Yeah.
Especially
you shouldn't
and you can do
that
that anyway.
on that. It just may throw them out.
Yeah, the easiest way is to write it right on your ballot or to communicate with the chief judge. Deb, we have 5 minutes left. Robert McDowell wants to know what screen to contestant distance is suggested.
Well, that is completely up to the chair and the chief judge, and there's going to be a different one in each contest. So keep that in mind. What I recommend is that you be able to see at least the speaker's shoulder. I always sit too low, so I'm a bad example. Have a look at Lloyd. You can see his elbows, his shoulder, his head, and when he does this, his elbows are within the screen. Okay, so if you're in the middle when you do this, your elbows will not touch the edges of your screen. Okay.
How much before the speech do you have to be told what the limits on your distance are?
Yes, it's something that the chief judge and the chair figure out in advance of the contest.
How much in advance?
Before I go into briefing, I will know that information and communicate it to the judges.
Deb?
Yeah.
It also depends on the contestants, because if I only have 2 feet behind me and I have so much room, all the other contestants are supposed to mimic that same kind of a space.
Yeah, exactly. That's why it's something that has to be predetermined, so to speak.
It's something that usually happens during the contestant briefing as you test things out, and then fed back to the chief judge.
So that they can bring it to
the briefing. It really depends on the contestants' capabilities.
And it's part of the briefing of the contestants, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So yeah, so that's why the chair is involved in the process.
Yeah, and that's why I liked when you gave the example of how far your elbows can reach, because that gives a real visual.
Hi, Deb. Gerald.
In effect, you're saying that you have to prepare a speech which is tiny in case you're told it has to be tiny at the time?
I'm not sure I understand your question.
If I prepare a speech, I need to know what the space is for preparing it. And I don't prepare it in 5 minutes. How do I prepare a week before for a speech?
I don't.
This is my opinion. You need to go on that least viable option. So prepare that speech sitting down, prepare the speech standing up. so that you can be flexible enough to make any movement changes. Now, that's
In other
not to
words,
say
don't
by the time you
prepare.
go to international, the rules kind of change because they're pre-recorded. But for these live events, you're using the lowest common denominator, sadly enough.
And it has to be that way because not everybody has the same technology either. If you were in Lloyd's session, you will know that part of the problem is going to be making eye contact with that camera, right? So if somebody's standing up because they have a camera up there and someone is sitting down like Gerald, is that the same? Is that fair? You notice that that was the case with Tekla. Tekla was able to move back. She was able to move from side to side, and Robert didn't have those same advantages.
Okay, Deb, this happened to me when I was the district governor. Everybody picked up their ballots and all the judges went into the room. Then a contestant came up to me and said, "I contest that speech." Like, whoa.
On the basis of what?
He just has the right to come up and say, "I contest that speech." All those people sitting in there writing down what they're doing. We have to put a stop to that because he has the right to contest that speech.
The only people that can contest originality, which is, I assume, what you're talking about, is judges and the contestants.
That's what I'm talking about. The contestant came after they picked up all the ballots and they went into the room, and then that person, I'm going to say,
Then,
came
yeah,
and said,
okay,
"I
so it
contest
would
that."
be a contested speech. You would handle it the same way as if a judge did it. Okay, you would go into a room, you would discuss it as a group
No,
of judges.
But
and
what
then
I'm
you
getting at,
call in.
so the chairperson must go in and tell those people not to count those ballots yet. Am I correct?
Correct. Nothing
Okay.
counts until it's the,
Because that's happened.
oh, well, that's, you know what, this district has done mistakes when it comes to protests. Part of the reason is because we don't get a whole lot of practice with protesting. Most of our contests are so good that we don't run into them. Okay, they are tricky and they're not nice when they happen, but there's a Toastmasters has set out a particular format in which to handle them that is the fairest to all. That's the best I can answer.
Okay, one more question. If anyone's got a last question.
I'm not sure who the person was that mentioned it with regard to eligibility. If you go into Club Central within your clubs, it'll show you the members within the club that are eligible for contests.
And yes, and what will happen as we go along is that the judges will also appear there. So you will know that Tekla belongs to these 4 clubs. So if you're the division governor and are looking for a judge, you'll know that she doesn't qualify because she belongs to the same as one of the speakers. Okay, and that will be available already. I have taken the advantage of our wonderful webmaster and posted all of the forms you need to hold a contest and several other pieces of information that will be of a lot of use to you, including the scripts. So have a look. If it's not there, go on to Toastmasters International, and seeing that I'm running out of time, I'm going to get Lloyd to put up that one last on.
Can I ask if the rule book is on the District 64 website?
The rule book? No, you have to go. I don't think I put it
Can
there.
we put
I
it
might
on?
have.
Can we put it on the District 64 website?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'll make a note to do that.
I appreciate it.
Okay. Can
Deb, this is Robert here.
Yeah.
The rule book is inside those zip files that's on.
It is in the zip file? Okay. I couldn't remember which documents I sent. Okay, so
Where,
yes.
sorry? It's where?
There's a zip file that I put on the district website that says speech contests. Here's the forms you need for the international and table topics. So you just go into those 2 separate zip files and download what you need.
At District 64.
At District 64.
Okay, thank you.
I will post the resources then. I will make a slide of it and post all of the resources online. I'll give you a quick idea of what they are. There's a link on Leadership Central, speech contest and speech contest tutorials. This is something that the chief judge has to send all of the judges and the tie-breaking judge, the ballot counters, all of that before the contest, so that they can actually bone up on all of the changes and recognize what's necessary in the contest. Then in Toastmasters International websites, there is the contest facts, like the frequently asked questions, the rule book, the world champion of public speaking, and how to qualify, or how to, oh, there you go. So this is all of the resources that I've been able to refer to in my speech. If you look at the second part, District 64 website, those are all of the things that are currently in there. And if there's more, something that you want to see relating to the contest judging, let me know and I'll put it in there. You'll notice that the dates of the contests are included there. And as far as current, I don't have further judging tutorials at this point, but I do plan on having them once I figure out when is an appropriate time, maybe attached to one of the district meetings. And when that happens, I will post them in this spot as well. Okay, so that is my presentation. I hope you learned lots. And there can be questions after the fact if you want, and you can send them to me. I've got a question. Who won? Nobody. They both disqualified. Further, if this had been a club contest, or any contest actually, they wouldn't be able to be going forward. You would not be able to use them. You would have to find a way to find somebody else to go forward if it was at the club. Once it gets to the area, you can't. Your guy is disqualified, your guy's disqualified. You don't go on to the division. All right, I hope that helped. Like I said, if you have questions, email me and I'll try to get whatever you need on the website. Thank you very much, Mr. Toastmaster.